Good evening. My name is Attillah Springer, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the first of two conversations hosted by Green Screen Environmental Film Festival. This year, Green Screen is celebrating 10 years of existence, and of course, it's happening under the backdrop or against the backdrop of COVID-19. This year, the festival takes place totally online. And so these first two conversations that will happen tonight and on the 22nd of October sort of bring into focus this thing that we are grappling with, that we are all grappling with wherever in the world we are. And that's the new normal. The new normal, which is Zoom ennui, the new normal, which is anxiety, the new normal, which is turning to the little piece of soil that you might have in your backyard or on the balcony of the apartment that you're living in and trying to make sense of growing a little something for yourself. The new normal, which is a mask in public. The new normal, which is social distancing and not being able to see and hug your parents. All of these things are the new normal. And all of these things are things that our filmmakers have are going to be grappling with this year as part of the very short shorts mobile film competition. So I'm not going to talk too much at this point. We have a really great lineup of speakers, panelists who are going to get into this conversation about how their lives have changed. And the focus of tonight, we're looking at food security and technology, two crucial points of conversation or concern for everybody as part of this new normal. But before we get into the conversation, we're going to take a look at some amazing films which screened in the last 2 years when the very short shorts mobile film competition was introduced. So the very short shorts mobile film competition is a recent addition to the green screen lineup, and it involves filmmakers having a theme and exploring the theme in a 1 minute film. And these films are transformational, they are thought provoking, but you'll see that for yourself. Let's go into tonight's film.
Why not eating your food? Look at your food. Why are you wasting it like that? I fed up talk to you about wasting your food. I can't handle this holiday, you know. If you had nothing to eat, if you had nowhere to go, you don't think of these kind of things?
We have an obesity problem. Not my problem, or so they say. Unless it affect me, it don't affect me. And that is some nonsense affects we. Taking the land for granted. Not enough crops planting. But we love we plateful, ungrateful. If time could talk, then time would tell you. The more we wait on others to pull the weight, we put more weight on ourselves. So we have an obesity problem. Latitude and longitude equals longevity. Your belly and your ego is too much to feed. So don't let food shortage be the result of greed.
Do you ever think about how your food choices can affect not only your health, but that of the world environment? Naturally grown food without pesticides and fertilizers is better for us. Locally grown food is better as it travels fewer kilometers to your table, using less fuel, packaging, and preserving the environment. Think of it like this. An apple grown in Washington State, USA, with fertilizer, sprayed with pesticides and covered in wax to preserve it, will be picked, packaged, and shipped by road, by boat, by road again, then packed onto a supermarket shelf where you buy it. A local mango, however, is grown with no chemicals, picked in maybe Valencia, and driven to the Arima market where you buy it. Better for the environment, better for you. We must support our local small farmers. Large-scale mechanized agriculture is heavily dependent on fossil fuels. Large-scale farming also accounts for 64% of all water use worldwide, making it a serious drain on a precious resource. And by buying foods grown closer to home, well, your money stays here to help build our local economy. Eat local, eat well.
Super excited for Green Screen 2020 when we'll be seeing the offerings. 61 offerings this year got into the very short film competition. And we'll be seeing the new offerings during this year's Green Screen Environmental Film Festival, which runs from October 29th to November 2nd. So but we're talking about the new normal tonight, which is the theme of this year's very short shorts. And Before I start stumbling over names, I'm going to introduce everybody. We have an amazing panel of people who are innovators in their own right in a multitude of disciplines. So I'm going to start with Agyei Archer, design director and co-founder, CEO at UnQ App. Welcome, Agyei.
Hello.
Then we have Alpha Sennon, who's a farmpreneur. Farmpreneur. I keep wanting to say farmtrepreneur, but I get it right. Farmpreneur. Motivational speaker and creative youth in the agricultural sector. So, an advocate for young people becoming involved in agriculture. Welcome, Alpha.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Brigette Joseph, who is an executive chef, consultant, international food safety, auditor, and all around badass. And then we have another absolute gem. Am I showing favoritism for the woman?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
You
But
probably
I-
should. It's fine.
I'm showing favoritism for the woman. Risanne Martin. She is a
Hi.
fashion and costume designer, stylist, and youth mentor. Welcome, Risanne. Welcome to the rest of the panel. So tonight we're talking about food security and technology, um, uh, and what that means as part of the new normal. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of that, I just wanted to ask everybody, just throw you all in the deep end with my wild questioning style. What has been your coping strategy during COVID, during the last 10 years of lockdown? How have you been coping?
Netflix, I guess.
Yeah,
I have been work. It's just been
work.
entirely work, yeah. And work as coping mechanism. Like it's definitely
Yeah.
escapism. It's not healthy in the least at all. It's not good for me. But that's what I've been doing. I've been just like embracing myself and like what can I do to solve things around me now?
Yeah, well, in the let me see about the 10th year of 2020, I the year that's kind of finished, you know. But for me, that's kind of started working a little more purposeful, you know, like a little more purposeful because for previously, yeah, you know, we've been promoting agriculture, promoting food security, but now you're seeing where it's getting realer and realer, and children, families, you know, because we have a farm and in the middle of the community where they really need food to eat now, you know. So for us, it really turned up a notch, and it opened our eyes then that we need to be growing more and more food, and of course, safe and healthy food as well too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Risan.
Well, at the beginning of it, I have to admit, it was a lot. It took a few mental breakdowns, I have to be honest. Mostly because of the disappointment, I guess, with commitments and jobs and bookings and plans, travel plans especially. And then I got over it and I started solving problems around me and just working, drowning myself in work to kind of distract, using my hands to create more, encouraging the women in my community. Because of all my commercial noise was silenced, I got to kind of go back to doing art for art's sake. And I really started noticing people in my community that have so much skill and so much talent, and they could bring so much income to themselves. You know, so I've been investing a lot of time and kind of doing that, helping them develop that and just focusing on that kind of work.
So
And certainly, I think that's the lesson of why we're all here and why we're all having this conversation about the new normal, because out of this period of uncertainty, all of you have come up with solutions that are really interesting and exciting and that use technology in different ways. So I just want to throw out the idea that, um, you know, could we just talk a little bit about what everybody is doing, how everybody is using technology to solve the problems that they're having. So, starting perhaps with Agyei and the UnQ app, and what was the genesis of that, and how that resolves two issues for us, the two issues that we are looking at tonight.
Yeah, I have a design studio, so we make websites pretty much constantly. We're making a website for someone. And because of the nature of retail in Trinidad, which is pretty much brick and mortar, almost 100%, we had a serious influx of requests for design and for development for new websites. And we realized that, yeah, we can make like some quick money, but the challenge would have been, I mean, honestly, fatigue and boredom, because like it would have been a lot of work to just pile on top of ourselves. So we decided that instead of figuring out multiple websites, let's make a thing let's make the alternative. Let's like find out how to get people online without needing to have an entire website spec'd out. And that led us into some prototyping, and it took like very little time. We started in March, and we had our prototype launch in July, and that's when we started taking on customers. And I have found it really interesting because we initially created the app for ordering. So it's the idea of it is that you have a retail business and you are able to display your items for sale. Shoppers can log on with their phone number to this app and make orders from you. So they can find out when you're open, they can let you know when they're coming. We support for curbside and for in-store and for delivery. And we set all of this up really just asking the same people who were asking us for websites, what problems are you really trying to solve? And something that was really nice was that we realized that a lot of these people who are online now with us would not have had the chance to go online, likely, just because of the budgetary restrictions that come with it. Sometimes the technological limitations as well. Like some people just aren't tech savvy to get there. And we've made something that's so simple that we have like right now, today, I have fish that we got fresh yesterday delivered. You can get, I like that you can get all of your food now there. And we didn't create it to solve a food security problem at all. We created it to solve a retail problem, but we saw the potential for it pretty immediately because a lot of our vendors now are people who are probably not on the scale to get into like a large scale grocery or retailer, but have a really, really solid, great product that a lot of people would be really happy to be invested in, but they won't be able to get that gap bridged in the grocery, just because they probably can't keep up with the scale for distribution to 26 retail outlets and that type of stuff. So like it's a solution that, yes, it's for retail across the board, but it does kind of level the playing field, I think, for people who are trying to immediately start getting themselves inside of the food game and selling food. And not just like prepared food, but also, things for the market. Fish, meats, just have them sent to your house now, But I mean, like, I also like the fact that we have this interface now of people who very likely would have gotten online eventually, but some people might not be able to survive long enough to get there. And I think that there's some people who just started their business during COVID, right? And now they can take orders online. And I think that has been really helpful for us to learn, because we didn't see it working out entirely that way. It was really, we just wanted groceries on it, to be honest. And then we realized that, oh, wow, we've kind of short-circuited that now. And now this is like this kind of hub for small business. And in many ways, that feels a lot more noble and righteous, to be honest. But yeah, like all in all, it's a technology solution that we've found a way to kind of leverage that does help with the food situation, I think. And I think there's a lot of potential for it helping. And I think that the way that we've done that is we've just done a lot of design and testing and prototyping and just trying to ask the right questions of the vendors and of the shoppers, trying to bridge the gaps of sale. Like, what do you need? How can we help you? Let's get it for you. Let's see how we can make it affordable.
And so how many vendors do you have? So you started off with, say, a handful of people. How many vendors do you have?
With all of 0 people. Right now we have, I think, close to 80 stores. So since we
Wow.
launched in July,
Wow.
we have about 300 downloads or 300 plus downloads for business accounts, but some people just haven't
Wow.
finished their accounts yet. And we have, I think, probably close to 1,500 shoppers now on the app.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're doing I think that we're doing really well for acquisition of like new business and that type of stuff. It's going well, and I think that it points to the real desire that a lot of people have to, one, do business more conveniently, but also to just kind of get up to the time, as people like to put it, you know.
Yeah.
And in a quick way, like it takes 10 minutes now on our app. Like even my system before was way more expensive, and it would take you 2 months. You know, so it's like an entirely different way of looking at e-commerce model. But I think it'll work. I hope, geez.
It's certainly an exciting innovation to be in this space. And I love that you talk about the prototyping, the going back to the drawing board, the design thinking going into the process. I feel that, there's something that Lloyd Best talks about in the Trinidad and Tobago psyche, which is, we like to reach to the point where we have a thing, but sometimes we don't revel in or relish the process to get there. And I appreciate that there's a process involved in the work that you do. So from going to and certainly, and this connects to who I'm going to bring in next, which is Brigette. The fact that people are also now having to cook at home more because they can't go out and eat. So I want to bring in Brigette to just talk a little bit about how COVID, how this new normal has affected the restaurant business, and certainly its use of food wastage, management of food resources. Because if you're not selling food every night, or you're selling a reduced amount, what does that do to the supply chain? What does it do to everybody who's involved in the supply chain?
All right. Well, hopefully I could remember the entirety of that question.
I will remind you.
Right. Well, basically the restaurant industry has suffered big time. Firstly, because of the complete shutdown of all food service businesses for 6 weeks, from April to mid-June, I think. And yes, so everything was shut down, which I'm sure led to a lot of food wastage in the supply chain system, because we have big suppliers who obviously we have our importation. We import the majority of our food in Trinidad. So I'm sure there was a good bit of wastage when it comes to that, because a lot of things are perishable because we don't eat what we grow here, and we also don't grow what we need. So, and then I think it also affected because we import a lot of food from Grenada, a lot of like root crops and other things. So I'm sure it affected our behaviors, affected other people. So it was like a big ripple effect with regards to restaurants being closed. And then that effect was felt by all the workers of the food industry, which doesn't only apply to locals, but it applies to the refugees and the migrants that are here who depend on our food industry. So that's a whole other sector that people don't pay attention to. So a lot of those people are suffering now, and have been suffering. And so food security is, we're food insecure, I guess.
Very, yeah. I mean, I've heard some shocking statistics on what our food import bill is. And it's particularly shocking, and I want to bring in Alpha here to talk about, being able to live in a place where all months of the year you can chuck something in the ground and something will grow. But the psychological schism that exists in our society, where our food import bill is so high, and also our restaurant industry could be on the brink of collapse because so much of what we eat and what is sold to us is dependent on importation of things. These two things disturb me, and I want to bring in Alfred because he's on the ground doing the farming and doing that, putting things in the ground, taking things out of the ground, and encouraging young people to get involved in farming. Alpha, two things. How is technology transforming your work right now? How is it amplifying your work or um, assisting you in doing the work that you have to do? And also, what kind of consciousness building, what kind of design thinking do you need? What support do you need from the people like Agyei to help your side of the business be stronger?
Yeah. I mean, for us, when COVID, became this pandemic, of course, I like to say that we had two scares. You had the toilet paper scare, and then you had the food security scare.
Mm-hmm.
As the toilet paper scare got under control, food security still became this kind of uncertain thing, like, oh, what we go eat if the borders locked down, right? So, as I said, everybody started to chuck something in the ground, and as we say it, everybody started to want to plant their own plate. Someone's, smaller levels, larger levels, according to how much space they have in the backyard and whatnot. Of course, we at Y Family really capitalized on that in a good way. Because I mean, a lot of the education that we have been doing for the past 5 years, and by the way, this tomorrow is our 5-year anniversary.
Oh, lovely.
Right? And tomorrow is World Food Day as well too. So just wanted to share that with all the viewers. I think this year's theme is grow, nourish, sustain, feed yourself, something like that. Right? So good. So everybody wanted to chuck something wrong. So we had to really, our education campaign had to kind of amplify and of course get online one way or the other. Because, when we usually have a lot of visits on the farm, a lot of visits to our workspace at the University of the West Indies, we had to now bring that support to them online. Because a lot of the folks that we were usually, who's our usual followers then, now wanted to start to plan something because the time is now. They have time on their hand, they're home. I mean, planting was just the fun thing to do, and that was like the most popular thing to do, right? It probably still is, somewhat. Of course, we had to create a support system, so we started a WhatsApp group, put some scientists in there, supporting people who's now planting for the first time, right? To be able to advise them accordingly. We had to really amplify our online videos and whatnot. So things as simple as planting dashing, we had to do preparation of the lunch, literal videos online showing that. And then of course we have our superhero character who is Agriman, and he had a lot of presence in the schools. We had to really do a lot of short Agriman videos, partner up with several companies, UNDP organizations, different organizations to get short videos out there, to get kids to grow their own garden at home. Right, so a big part of what we had to do as well too, and this is where Agyei could really help support people like me and others, to put packages together. We have our project is called Dashing Your Doorstep, right? Dashing Your Doorstep Market. So again, you order online and we send these packages to you. Of course, we deliver it, and of course, it didn't really come to us, but elderly folks within our community started asking, well, do you all deliver produce online? Do you all deliver produce, to the doorstep? And we had to kind of quickly run and put packages together and kind of release that campaign. And we started getting folks to order from us. I mean, it's being done via WhatsApp, but of course we eventually need our website to be able to do that a little more officially and properly, right? So those are some of the things that we had to kind of adapt to. Who can find us far? I mean, I'm trying to remember your next question.
I think you covered both bases, because I was asking how can you be supported by people like Agyei, or by organizations, and design thinking. How can design thinking help a farmer? This is how we need to, this is the question.
Right. Well, and to add to that, then, besides Agyei supporting us via website building and whatnot, because I mean, again, you saw in the first wave of COVID, you saw a lot of farmers popping up saying how nobody are buying the watermelon and surplus in the market and whatnot, right? In some cases, I don't know how true it was, because from the time we buy a lot from other farmers as well, our farm cannot sustain the amount of orders that we have. By the time you call out some of those farmers, it's sell out already. I don't know if it was just a little scheme to
I realized that was happening a lot. And then I called as well, and then things were kind of gone already.
You understand?
But I realized there is a gap in the market where we need to be able to communicate with the existing farmers better to the public, because there's always like a middleman that is capitalizing on the farmer.
Yeah, right.
And then
right, true. So the farmers, I mean, the middleman, I mean, this might be another question later down the road, but the middleman is who makes a lot of the money in agriculture here in Trinidad, right? But my final thing though, in terms of how others on the panel here could support farmers like myself, I think there's a general need for persons like Brigette, who's, into the culinary and cooking, to be able to show the John public, that this is what you could do with local food. Yeah. Because for some reason or the other, people, they tend to go with foreign. Our
palate has been very spoiled. We love foreign.
We love foreign. And not knowing what you could do with baigan, and what you could do with edos, and what you could do with dashi. Now, they need to be educated, but it must be done in a fun way where, a farmer brings some of his produce from on the ground here to Brigette in her kitchen, and she prepares an amazing meal. Like people at the end of it, people be like, "Wait, I never know you could do that with that." For some reason or the other, you only feel where you get in. Well, I ain't going to call no restaurant name, but you could only that is a fancy meal. And the last thing is that our group is called Plant Your Plate, and our idea was to be able to showcase your plate, your plate of food that you consumed, and tell us what percentage of it you grew. What percentage of it you actually grew in your backyard. And very few persons on the group, this is, observations, would actually show their plate.
Because for some reason,
well, yes, it is. But for some reason or the other, people not comfortable. I don't know if you all would have realized it. Some people not comfortable showing their local plate of food. It is that you see on Instagram with a plate of food, it has to be something looking bougie, as what they will say, And I mean, I don't know what bougie is, but for me, bougie is smokering and yam.
It's pasta.
You understand? So those are things where I would say folks like Brigette can support farmers, because of course, if we have a great campaign around that, of course, more local produce would sell. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed. I will share my plantain pancake recipe with you. Because I actually don't know how people, I mean, I was a vegan for many years, and then this year I started back eating eggs, and being able to make pancakes was like a wild scene for me. And then also discovering, because I had 2 overripe plantains, that I could actually make pancakes with them, and then wondering why anybody would ever want to use that box nastiness to make pancakes.
Exactly.
When you have like a perfectly
pancakes are so easy to make, but people don't. I think a lot of the problem is education and faith.
Yeah, they don't know.
I also think that marketing plays a big role too, because what I've been doing a lot of is working with small companies, not fashion companies, not fashion brands, to help to make visual simulation of things, so whatever it is. So even with food, how you package that and sell that, you could make that trendy. That could be like a whole thing that moving with something as popular as the whole Trinidad movement. You know what I mean? It's really possible to get that trendiness vibe. So the provision and the way that you use the provision, not same plantain pancake.
Yeah.
We could bring that
Because
out and do that.
that's what
Yeah.
like in the first, I think in the first section of the lockdown, when I was like fearing our borders being closed and the access of our imported stuff, I used like my Twitter platform to remind people, hey guys, you guys should start trying to get in your palate accustomed to local stuff. And you
Mhm.
know, at G Spot, I used to make like dasheen mash instead of like potato. So it'll be local ground provisions instead of potatoes using for mash. And you know, it tastes like I prefer that. So
Mhm.
So much better.
yeah.
But Risanne, I wanted to bring you in to add to that conversation that we were just bringing up, which is the whole question of style, the
Yeah.
whole
I'm
question of
okay.
styling, and how as a visual people we don't see the need for styling of certain things.
Tell me about it.
And also, I mean, I just want to, can I just chuck a slight bit of fire and ask you, if you were to design a national campaign to get people to wear a mask, what would that look like?
National campaign to get people to wear masks.
Don't give away too much information so that the Ministry of Health use your thing for free. But all I'm saying is that style is clearly missing, and design thing is clearly missing from the national effort to raise consciousness about the pandemic. And so, as a stylist, as somebody who works in the visual all the time, how would you what how would you approach a campaign around getting people to change their habits for the better during the pandemic?
Well, I think first of all, my target is always the youth. I'm fully obsessed with the youth. I'm very into what they're into. My mentorship really keeps me on the ground with them. 18, 19, 20, 21. That's my age group. That's who I try to vibe with the most. Also, my target is also women, mostly girls. So not to be biased, if it was a national campaign, I would definitely pay attention to the actual design and the quality control of the mask um, being made. And I would definitely try to put some national colors in there because we're not very nationalist like Jamaicans and plenty other islands. So I would use it as an opportunity to kind of raise our consciousness on our national, not just on Independence Day or on Republic Day, just over the years, just kind of push that in there. So I would definitely have something like that. I'll do a mask competition because I want to get the youths involved for sure. And there's so many awesome designers that we have no idea exist because they're not on social media or they're just doing art for art's sake somewhere in a wooden shed somewhere, just being themselves. So I definitely try to access designs from artists who we don't know about, who may not be popular. And I would use the popular music, as I was mentioning Trinidad earlier. It's like a whole subculture, whether we like it or not. You know what I mean? And they're coming hard and they're coming strong, and they have the youth's attention, they have their ear. So I would definitely link up with some Trinidad artists, like our PNM and other UNC and other political parties kind of used it, but differently. It will be much more sustainable for the artists and as well for the followers. But definitely that would be my thing. I would definitely use the new young subculture to kind of get it out there so that it could be sustainable.
And certainly it would be a way to keep our artists and our creative people engaged. I mean,
Definitely.
because in a time when people can't perform live, or they can't, people aren't selling clothes, or people
Yeah.
aren't, here's an opportunity in consciousness raising, in engaging the publics, your different publics, um, on issues that are pressing. We have an essential service there that could be
Yeah.
fulfilled for all of us.
I
I'm
really
seeing something on the side of the screen there, and I think that's a question
like there's a comment.
or a comment.
There's a
All
comment.
right, let me see if I can see it.
I was really feeling Alpha,
Okay,
what Alpha was talking about earlier. And
okay.
I just like, for example, I feel like we're all kind of very connected in what we we are doing, because Brigette is excellent in terms of aesthetic, like local food aesthetic. G-Spot did that. You know what I mean? G-Spot definitely did that, and it also made food trendy for me. I was very into food because I'm hungry, but G-Spot did food as a art, or food as, you know, something visual as well, and trendy and fun. And, you know, people went to G-Spot not only for the social vibes, but also for the food and to take pictures, taking pictures of the food. That was a whole part of it. So how these farmers show their process, because like I've gotten a lot more jobs recently because of showing my process, my creative process that I thought didn't matter, or that was too messy to be shown. That same creative process is fully saving my life. Showing people inside the studio, showing people the dirty hands, showing people the mistakes and the errors, and then the overcoming, and the 3 o'clock in the morning posting the time. You know, I'm not saying that all farmers should do this, but because it's very competitive, and everybody is trying to do a food app or farm to go kind of service, I think that to kind of stand out and to be, you know, ahead of the game, you definitely have to have quality visuals, and everything has to be styled. The way the pumpkin sitting on behind the pawpaw on that side, you know what I mean? For the picture, it matters. You know, and people who do what Alpha does tend to think what I do can't inform what they do now, usually. So that's why it's very hard to infiltrate. So it's much easier to start small, like in my community, you know what I mean, by the fish market in Carnage, where I'm from. And the visuals that you see by the fish market is insane. It's incredible. You know what I mean? These fellas have no idea how much content. They have natural content daily, you know? So capturing that content is so super valuable, and editing it and packaging it and putting it out there. Listen, I watched a lobster and shrimp video the other day, and I fully want to do a seafood boil. Now I'm obsessed. I can't get it in my head, right? And I wasn't a big lobster fan before, but the visuals of that raw lobster, they win me. I'm ready to spend my $75 a pound. Look me.
Girl, a friend selling it for 50.
Right, girl, hook me up, right? And the same thing with pumpkin, and the same thing with veggies, and the same thing. I love to see crops, and people posting and showing them growing their own garden is so inspiring to me and so empowering. I love seeing people showing their shadow bunny, my garden, and they cutting up the shadow bunny, and they, you know, so it makes everything so much more meaningful. And we definitely have to package it better. You know, we have to package it better. We have to visually have it so that when we send it to Mr. On Q, right, we ready for it to go. He have the content. Yeah, he have the content ready to go, because from Alpha to him, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. It have a middleman, aka a visual somebody.
That's
who
true.
Definitely has to get that aesthetic, and then because every farmer is not the same. The essence of each farmer is very different, and we must feel that when we see the crops. We must feel that when we see how it put together. You know.
Yeah.
So
I just want to say, sorry. Go ahead, Alpha. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I just couldn't. Risanne, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think the process behind it is real important. Like people seeing, you know, when you wake up in the morning and you go in this dashing bush patch and you're in this slush and you're in this mud, and the leaves and them, you know, the dashing leaves is the heart and the love that you get in your patch. And then, you know, dashing leaves, you know, somebody tell you how, like if you're walking in the rain and you're not getting wet, they say, these are dashing bush or what? Because you know,
water rolling right off.
Yeah, that's rolling off, you know, and it'll be so amazing. And if when people see that, they will feel a lot more comfortable to purchase it, cook it today. It's all in the marketing. So I absolutely love that you said, and I feel that to bring it on my farm.
Yeah. A lot of people do appreciate seeing the process behind a lot of things. Like that's why cooking videos are so popular now.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like people like Eater Food as well. Badawi has been doing a lot of good work going on farms, and one of his series, like Agyei, I think, goes and talks to the farmers, and you know, so I think we all have the right idea, but as usual, a lot of like things like funding, like these things take time and money. to do,
Yeah.
obviously. So yeah, so things that are like passion projects need to be, work stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think
I
that
just wanted to say, one of the things that Agyei had brought up, and also Alpha, is older people having a challenge with being able to go out, wanting to have deliveries home, which is a huge change. I mean, I tried to get my mom's food delivered, and she said it's hard for me because I like to go in the market and
and
talk
choose
to
my thing. Yeah.
the vendors. And I feel like this is where the social media comes in, the
Mm-hmm.
storytelling comes in.
Yeah,
Because,
yeah.
when my mother goes to the market and she meets a fellow from Haiti and they talk in Creole, um, all of that is part of the experience of this food that she's
Yeah.
going to nourish her body with. So the stories that we tell around food, the way that we prepare food, the as Alpha just said, the love that we have for dragging the dashing out. I mean, I had 7 tomato plants. I got 3 tomatoes and one was rotten. I wept. I talked to the tomato plants every day. So
Boy, tomatoes
understanding,
hard to grow, boy. You have to
Tomatoes hard.
respect that now.
Yeah, tomatoes hard.
Pickle, well,
Anytime you
pickle,
eat a
boy.
respect
tomato, you have to be like,
understand.
oh yes, thank
It's a
you.
tomato, you can't just cut up tomato again just so and
Yeah.
put it in a salad.
No, that's Mr. Tomato for
It's like
sure.
Mr.
Gourmet.
Tomato.
Okay?
But yeah, the stories that go into how we consume food, I feel is so important to the nourishment that we get from the food as well. And I want to go back to Agyei and talk about that importance of story in design as well.
Mhm. I mean, it's huge. The thing is that like I'm real lucky that we work in branding, right? So like my background is in branding, my training is in branding. So that's always a really core thing is like this idea of bridging the gap because like people want to buy your shit, your things. People want to do business with
Lanka.
you, okay? And
Yes.
but what we have to do is also understand that like everybody's really distracted. So Brigette mentioned Badawi just now, and I think that's a really good example. So Badawi does something for me which I find really fascinating because I like to consider myself unmarketable too. You cannot persuade me. I do the persuading in this relationship, right? but at the same time, we have me in New Market looking for okra to make okra rice, and that's just
Yeah.
because the content is there. And I think that we
Yep.
have a seriously rich store of content that we can be mining a lot more advantageously. But I do think on one hand, there's the incentivization because somebody like Badawi has to find some way to pay for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like that's one part of the equation. And I also think that it's a little bit, to be honest, I find a little bit disappointing that we can solve the problem internally so simply by just injecting some money in the right people's hands and just giving just like here look at just solve the problem now and it's solved, because we have the internal resources, which is a rarity in spaces like ours where we both have the things and we have the facility to capitalize on the things. That is rare. That's like it's really, really, really nice. And I think that what we have to do when we think about the storytelling aspect is remember that people love getting engaged. And I mean, like we've had to do that with our businesses. So some of our businesses on Q, they have their own little marketing pushes. But we've had to, for example, help them figure out how do we now funnel people into this digital shopping space. So like we actually give them captions. We tell them how to use things, and that is really just because that's just one more step in the way for them to get into somebody's hands. But like people love our stores. It's insane. People buy things, they're so happy. And it's not because, I mean, yes, these stores are special, but a large part of it, I think, is just because people get to be involved in a business's story. Especially now, like now it feels so much more gratifying to be part of a business's story. I'm not necessarily sure that I want to buy imported cherry tomatoes right now. Like, even though I may like them, I think that now I would feel a lot better going to the market and buying a bag of big red ripe ones, And I think that this is a really good time for us to market like this idea of buying local, because on one hand we are pushed into a corner and we don't have a choice and we better figure it out fast. But on the other hand, I think that we kind of have to stay home and we have to find a way to be okay with ourselves. And I think that what that means is that we have this opportunity to reflect on the things that we have going on for us. And I think that if we start, I think that we have to businesses have to start investing in their stories. I think that that is a challenge. A lot of them are insecure about what they have because they are expecting Eurocentric capitalism model of having very aesthetically pleasing things and like having them framed in a particular way. And I think that the challenge is like breaking them out of that thinking and telling them your stuff is actually valid and it's actually really good and people should buy this. And I think that when business owners are incentivized like that, because that's a large part of branding. I mean, I told one of my clients that recently, like, you only hired me to give you some confidence in yourself. You know, like that's actually what you paid me for. You paid me so that you could believe in you because you already have a great product. And I think that that is a big part of the help that businesses need, as well as not just how to sell, because selling, I mean, the lady in the market sells really well. She just yells okra at me until I buy it, right? And it works every time.
She also sings okra. She also sings it.
Yeah.
I remember being on Charlotte Boulevard one day and lady selling body. And she was like, body, who wants it? And somebody said, nobody. You know, so there's this conversation.
Yeah, and that's branding. And I think that what
you know,
we get is that's branding.
That we love in the space. But what you're also speaking to, Agyei, is this idea of decolonizing our palates, one, and democratizing the systems of food distribution and consumption and importation or exportation. So when we start to understand how deeply colonial our mindset is when it comes to food, then we start to understand the position from which we need to challenge and change those systems. We're coming to the end of this section. We're going to be inviting people to send us their questions, comments, observations, so that the panel can address some of those issues. But yeah, I mean, this is just really exciting because it's bringing together so many things that I've been thinking about during this time of lockdown and not having a lot of people to talk to. Alpha, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I just can't understand how we live in Trinidad and Tobago here, and we grew up hearing that one apple a day keeps the doctor away. Are we crazy?
What?
When West Indian cherries have more vitamin C.
And we have Pomerac and we have Pom City. We got to be kidding. I mean, so this is the time right now, ladies and gentlemen who's listening, and we need to change that. Don't teach your children that nonsense. And the video that, one of the videos, the short videos, whoever is that person that did that, I want to be in touch with them. They did that videos about the apples coming from wherever, on a bus, on a plane, that was amazing. That really touched me, because I always ask my students when I go into schools, have you ever eaten a fresh apple? And this is a question to think about. Because when was this apple harvested?
Exactly.
And where?
Last month.
You understand? So, and what characteristics defines freshness, you know? It's recently picked. It didn't go a long distance to reach to you. It wasn't in a fridge for, you know, for 2 months.
It wasn't shined.
You understand?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I saw...
again, we have to eat what in season.
Yeah.
We have to eat what local. And
as you're saying that, I saw on someone's Instagram today with a fresh plate of local fruit. They said that eating fruits in season provides your body with necessary nutrients appropriate for the time of year. And I never thought of it from that perspective. And it makes sense.
Of course.
It makes sense.
Of course. When that pomerac comes in season and you consume that pomerac, right? Whatever is in the pomerac, that is what fights off whatever is in the air at the moment.
Exactly.
That West Indian cherry tree bear, because I have a couple
high vitamin C.
That high vitamin C. And you
Anybody have a
can start
balata
at
tree?
that time.
No, girl, I wish.
And I don't have a balata. I have
Balata,
nearly
like,
everything else.
Holy Grail.
Holy Grail.
That is what we need for that time of the year. And
Mhm.
leave them people and them with their thing outside there. That is what good for them. That is good for we in this type because yes, I mean I have consumed. I worked on a farm in Chicago, and I've consumed. It had apples on the farm, and I consume an apple there. The apple that I picked and consumed there is not the apple always be eaten here. So let me think about that.
How do
Yeah.
we decolonize? How do we decolonize?
Yeah, I saw
Well, I
comments
mean,
on the Facebook.
basically,
Decolonize your
COVID.
pantry.
A starch mango a day,
Exactly.
yes.
Yes.
About five such.
Right? One.
Big up the 4-Hers. Big up Mr. Theodore.
Yeah. So we have our first question, and I'm throwing it out to the panel. How do we create the transformation that is required at a national level? Well, I mean, yeah, we've been scratching at the surface, but and then there's also a question for Brigette after that general question, which is how do we create transformation that is required at a national level? Thoughts?
Yeah, I think something like that, it has to be something very in your face. And it has to be a big marketing thing because that's the only way things reach people. Like it has
I
like
can only think
billboards.
of I can only think the last successful campaign, national campaign that we had against anything was designed by the late great Pat Bishop, and that was Chase Charlie Away. And I mean, some of you all might be too young to remember Chase Charlie Away, but I mean,
No, I
to
remember.
say it was an effective campaign,
I heard about
well
it.
designed,
Yeah.
brilliant, simple, I mean, it did, and we need to bring back Charlie now because the littering situation has become
Out of control.
twice,
Yeah.
3 times, 50 times as bad as it was in the 80s when Charlie was around. To the question for Brigette specifically, why do local restaurants use foreign fruits to make desserts?
Supply chain.
The problem with I think the restaurants have here, and I think it's a problem we have locally, is that the demand and supply we have is not it doesn't work out because first of all people request foreign things, so they want the cheesecake and they want the strawberry cheesecake and they want all the foreign things they see on TV and all kind of things. And then even if restaurants try to support local, sometimes the demand is the supply is very shaky. So the supply chain, like it'll be like this week, because the consumer habits, they want to see the same thing on the menu every week, every day. I will go this week, I will go 2 months from now, and I know I'm going to get that pasta Alfredo the same way every time. Right? So it does have to do with the palate of Trinis and what we've grown accustomed to. And then not having things. We don't eat seasonal here. We eat like people that have winter time. Very starch heavy, very heavy. We should be eating more like Mediterranean. But we eat very like we going into winter.
Or we working in garden whole day. I mean,
we we in construction. Very warm foods. And so the supply of local produce isn't as steady or to fulfill the demand that we need or that we have.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions on comments or observations on that question of how do we create transformation, the transformation that is required at a national level?
Yeah, if I may take a stab at it, I mean, the transformative years of conditioning or reconditioning one's mind is between birth and 12, right? So that transformation that we need, if we don't start over in kindergarten school, primary school, we are going nowhere. Because from the time a child reached that teenage age there, you started looking to all what was brought to your attention on the TV, right? All what you're watching on this channel and that channel about food and whatnot. And I mean, and I always say that a lot of movies show a lot of disrespect towards food and whatnot. You know, things like food fight, right? Those things are ridiculous, and it shows that it gives young people lesser value for food then, right?
Yep.
But on a real though, we have to start with that re-education into the schools. I mean, and all the songs like this
From primary school level. Yeah.
Primary school level, you have to start there. I mean, and then folks might tell you, well, but when you start there, so I'm to the parents, I'm to the adults, but you have to start there because 20 years ago, if you was listening to whoever was saying starting in primary school, those 10-year-olds.
Our whole generation will be different.
Exactly.
Yep.
They'll be 30 years now. So if we started then with a real strict curriculum on food education, environmental education, entrepreneurial education, design thinking education, you name it, you will create better human beings. We'll create more sustainable Trinbagonians who have this real love for country, who understand their food, who understand, getting closer to the farmer, who understand the heritage involved in food as well too. But as much as we talk in technology, we cannot forget the work that our ancestors did as well too. So I like to talk about IT meeting IT. Indigenous techniques meeting information technologies, right? And we must merge that now to be able to, because so much things that went down with our forefathers, they didn't run into Caribbean chemicals or some bottle of chemical to run out something. No, they use marigold, they use what we call stinking Susie, the yellow
flower.
Yellow flower.
Yes.
They use eggshell, they use hot pepper and garlic, and they blend it together and they spray it around the plant. Right, so we have to kind of merge these things, and I mean, and the storytelling behind it, we have a win. But transformation has to begin from that transformative years of a young person between birth and 12. And if we have that national campaign, I mean, we are going nowhere really and truly,
And they need to know it like they know the anthem. It needs to be repetitive, like a daily repetitive something.
Yeah,
it's a cult. It's a cult we try to create.
No, real talk, like a cult.
But it's true, it's like up in the islands where they depend heavily on tourism. They are trained from primary school about tourism, and they learn it from then. So they are created into little tourism machines,
A 9-year-old bouncing up on a bus.
This is the fundamental difference between how we are educated. Our consciousness is, get a good education, which is lots of exams, and either go away and get a big work in some big company, or get a public service job, or work in oil or gas or something that's,
or be a lawyer,
that's presentable.
And
there's so much shame associated with planting gardens, with being involved in agriculture, with having family who is involved in agriculture. If you're selling in the market, there's shame involved in that. If you have your own garden, there's shame involved with that. I mean, we have to unpack why those things exist in our consciousness. That's a serious part of the problem.
I also think
post-colonialism
to keep us dependent and hungry constantly.
I also think that a lot of responsibility ultimately will end up lying with the supply chain, though, like if we're talking about this at a national scale, because the reality is that it is cheaper probably to produce our food here, but the question is cheaper for whom? And it's very likely that it's not cheaper for the groceries that control the retail market in Trinidad. So like until they are incentivized to put more local food on the plates, which will mean cutting into their bottom line, which is probably something they could afford to do, but who wants to have less money? I think that and that has to be like a government intervention level thing. But until that happens, we will have a better educated population who will still have to make a choice on, am I going to spend way more money on dashing, or am I going to buy potatoes?
No, exactly.
Some people have to buy the potatoes.
Yeah, because those things are, all the things that we eat that are cheaper, it's because someone has been exploited to make those things.
Exactly.
So
and I mean,
yeah, a lot of people do say, you know, buying local is sometimes more expensive, but we need to have a way to not have that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we have one question. Okay, we have questions. We have a question from Liam Risanne, Papa London in the house. Liam, big up, Liam. Serious question for the panelists. Why can't we find more Trinbagonian restaurants in the Caribbean diasporas around the world? Do we understand and appreciate the value and uniqueness of our culture and our cuisine? Serious question.
That's tough, boy. I find diaspora cuisine to be honestly very watery and philosophically challenging to eat because you're telling me you have a Trinidadian restaurant where you're selling beef patties. Like that's the other thing too. Like we kind of like put everything together when we leave here. So like it stops being a Trinidadian restaurant and it starts becoming a Caribbean
Caribbean restaurant.
You know, and like what's gonna win? Marketing and then what
it's the marketing. It's definitely the marketing because every Caribbean restaurant that I've seen
is Jamaican.
Yeah.
Like majority Jamaican. Like people associate that strongly Caribbean with Jamaica. Like the other islands don't exist. It's like
but I mean
they taste our food.
But I mean, Brigette, let's bring it back again. I just want to be provocative and bring it back again to the question of what we feel confident expressing about ourselves in the world. And if you meet a Jamaican anywhere in the world, they are Jamaican.
Yeah, they are so big and proud and loud.
If you walk into an office, and this has happened on numerous occasions to me while living in London, I would walk into an office, there would be somebody there spitting queener than the Queen's English, and then when they hear your accent, they go with sotto voce, "You from Trinidad?"
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah." Except I'm not ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
You know, so again, we have this kind of self-consciousness about who we are and this lack of confidence, which then
we are like so good. Like our food is the best in the Caribbean. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've been to all, and I can say that unbiased.
Let's not go there. I mean,
but we don't want to have any fights.
We got Bami,
we got Bami today, but you know,
I'm not choking. I'm not getting involved in that.
We have versatility. Sure about our versatility.
Yes, because we have so many different people in our island that our flavors are amazing. So like nowhere else uses pimento really. Pimento is like our secret ingredient.
You can't find that flavor pepper anywhere.
No.
Okay, we have another question.
You have like dry pimento seeds.
Yeah, it's a different thing. We have a question from Nikita Mohammed. The transformation in the demand side has to be accompanied by corresponding transformation in supply. My question is, how feasible is feeding our entire population with emphasis on local production and an expansion of the agricultural sector, considering how resource intensive the sector is? What would be the impact on our natural ecosystems to this expansion? And this is the question that I had. This is an expansion of something that I had raised when we were talking about this. You know, we heard that the government said there would be a 70% increase in contribution to the agricultural sector. But what is this increase going to go towards? Is there going to be sustainability taken into consideration? Is there going to be drought reduction exercise? Is there going to be consciousness raising so that there isn't slash and burn as a form of forest clearance, which then undermines watersheds? You know, there are lots of things that have to be considered. So yeah, Alpha, do you want to take a stab at that question? Is Alpha frozen?
I lost you all. I lost you all for a second.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let me just repeat the question. The transformation, and it's in the chat. The transformation in the demand side has to be accompanied by a corresponding transformation in supply. My question is, how feasible is feeding our entire population with emphasis on local production and an expansion of the agricultural sector, considering how resource intensive the sector is? What would be the impact on our natural ecosystems to this expansion?
Right. Well, I mean, the question with if we could feed our entire population by the I would say the increase in investment that was made the last budget. I mean, I don't have the answer to that. I think we'll only know if we actually try. We'll only know if we really cultivate, I guess, all the lands that could be cultivated across Trinidad in, of course, a very organized manner and see what happens. But again, a big part of answering the question about feeding our own nation is not only growing more food problem. A big part of it is also a zero waste problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
We waste a lot as well, you know?
Yep.
And one of the videos, the short videos that I think it sort of made me remember this quote that we have enough food in the world, or probably in Trinidad, probably in the Caribbean, to feed for our need, but not for our greed. You know, again, we like to sit down with a big plate of food, eat 2 spoons of rice, and then they throw away the rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a waste problem. We have a nutrition problem, of course, too, because that's to let the viewers know that, you know, when we say food security, we must include food and nutrition security, because yes, we could have enough food to feed us, but the food could be junk food that would feed us, but it wouldn't fulfill us.
True.
Right? So that's a very, very, very important part of this discussion. In terms of the increase in budget allocations, if it's going towards sustainable, I heard that much before, sustainable programs. Well, as far as I know, I was on a panel with the Minister of Agriculture earlier on this week, and you know, he spoke about 32 new projects under 500 million
The grant.
that they have, and one of it would be investing into young farmers, creating new farmers. And of course, we was advocating for this from the start of Y-Farm 5 years ago, but I guess it's now coming to heed now, and I'm pleased to hear that. I mean, and again, my big thing about it is that these young farmers must be trained, they must be organized, they already energized in order to mobilize, right? Because we could start to grow, and people growing this and growing that. If you can organize it, then what you're saying then, right? Because everybody can't grow sweet potato. Everybody can't grow cassava. You know, we must be able to organize what we go in and grow on these respective lands and see what we shorted in Trinidad, what could we replace. Well, like a colleague called me yesterday and said to me, do we have anywhere in Trinidad or any website, and maybe this could be a project for us, right? Well, if it doesn't exist, that we could go and see, you know, all the foods that are being imported, because the Minister of Trade was mentioning it last night on TV6, I believe, and she said it's $5.6 something billion in imports, 1 something billion on cereal and bread, and I'm like, what? You know, when you hear the numbers and you see it, you'll be like, whoa, right? So it doesn't have anywhere that we could go and see, you know, these are the foods imported, and this is what could be replaced locally by it. And I think if we do something like that, and people could see it, right? Because again, we living in a time where we don't know what's next. We don't know what 2021 going to bring and the years to come. So if we could see that now, and then we could say, okay, this is what we need to be focusing more on. And let's get the population to start buying the sweet potato pasta. I mean, my colleague from Slim Down 360, Jody White, he's doing sweet potato pasta, right? So why can't we now buy into that and help him produce that? Well, not only him, I mean, we need more and more people doing it. But that's what makes the market now competitive and make it a new thing now. You know, so more and more people start to do that now. You know, the Ministry of Trade themselves, they give equipment, they give grants and whatnot to do so. I mean, they have $100,000 grant, but for Lord, a youth man like me can't get it. It's for certain people in society. Anyhow, right? So
anyhow, we have one last question. We have one.
I just have one thing to say about us not knowing what is coming. So, well, we are very vulnerable to natural disasters in our region, and so if we're talking about food security, how do we factor like climate change and into how we do agriculture? Like, because we always have, every year we have the big flooding drama and the farmers crying, every single year, and every year it happens again and again, and I feel like nothing is done every year. So like what like
Yeah,
how do
I
we
mean
how do we
that
fix
was my
that?
concern. That was my concern when when it came up in the budget. You know, yes, it would be great for us to talk more about agriculture. It's essential. However, the Vikivi approach at just flinging money at something and hoping that something will become a solution is perhaps what we should have been doing, 60 years ago. Right now, we don't have the time, given that
It's urgent now.
climate change is.
Hey.
Let's be honest. This COVID-19 situation is the dress rehearsal for
Yeah.
what is to come. And so, the last question that we have is from Serini Gray. Hi,
Hi,
Soy.
Serini.
Hi,
She says,
Sweeney.
has anyone on the panel seen any positive starter cultural changes with regards to agriculture and local foods during the pandemic, and what are they? I mean, I think
for
that
sure.
I
yeah,
have.
Yeah.
I
Big
have
time.
seen the accessibility. I have seen more people because we can't leave the house. So when we couldn't leave the house, so it's not, well, obviously we should not unnecessarily. A lot of farmers and a lot of middlemen are doing like produce box deliveries. Like I'm sure Jillian and Kelly at TT
TT.
got a rise in the amount of orders they have, and for organic, non-plastic, packaging, those kind of things, and market movers and some other market lady people. So like I've seen a change with regards to the access of fresh produce, which
Yeah,
was
I mean,
nice.
yeah, and I mean, on our group, our Plant Your Plate movement group, that group built really quickly. And on that group, you have lawyers, you have doctors, you have pilots, you have CEOs, you have general managers of oil and gas company that saw the movement and started ordering seedlings and plants and whatnot from us. And they now farming in the backyard. I think pre-COVID, nobody had a care about that really and truly,
Yeah.
So
And they didn't
now,
have the time, like everybody literally
yeah,
was forced to slow down to think.
yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. I just want to get any closing comments from panelists. We've been talking about solutions, we've been talking about challenges, we've been talking about, what we're seeing. I just want to leave everybody on a note of optimism. So, is there one thing that you can identify out of the experience of this new normal that fits in with the theme, the overall theme of this year's Green Screen Film Festival, which is beautiful?
It's been really nice for me to look at people get a chance to. I'm a small business owner, I guess, but I don't interface with many small business owners just because of the scale of like the clients that I work with, right? And for me, I was telling one of my business partners this morning that I have been able to help more people get online in the past 4 months than I have been able to in my 12 years of my career, which is kind of beautiful, I think. And it's the same level of help, if not a more accessible one, but just more egalitarian and more democratized. And that feels really good. And it feels really good to have a space where people can start building a community around that.
For me in the first serious lockdown, I did use my platforms to get help to feed people that they had no food because they lost all their jobs and everything stopped. So a lot of people came forward, donated money to people that needed, and we got hampers out, and that was really nice seeing everybody come together. Like we donated like over 200 or more, 300 hampers in such like short space of time. It was like 3 weeks. So that was very beautiful.
Risanne?
Hey guys, sorry, my whole family just came over. My nieces included. So I told them I should be done by 8:15, and they didn't play games with the arrival. I really enjoyed this chat. I hope that the question was a wrap up.
Yeah.
Patricia, on point, am I? Guys,
I wouldn't say on point,
That was beautiful.
but-
Beautiful. Yeah.
that was beautiful.
That was
Yeah.
beautiful. That was totally beautiful. And you are beautiful.
I think
and
you've
just-
actually solved.
I love. Hey, Elizabeth. Alpha.
Yeah. Risanne, I can't wait to meet you in person as well.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, baby girl.
hi.
So, I mean, for me, like, if you in Trinidad and Tobago and you still and realize that the soil is the new oil and the grass is the new
Oh,
gas.
I love that. The soil is the new
Grass is the new gas.
If you don't realize that, then you're playing the
All right.
All right, that's all right. Right. I mean, and that had a summit up there, you know what I mean? Because that is where we heading next. and not really heading next. That is where we at right now, right? And so really and truly that transformation has to happen, that culture, that rebranding of agriculture. And what I love about this panel is that when I started Y-Farm 5 years ago, you know, on my mind was always a rebranding of the sector. So it brings me great privilege to be part of this discussion tonight, you know, with a chef, with a design consultant, with a branding expert, with designer. That is the kind of, again, the problem with agriculture is not just agriculture. It's the things surrounding it, you know, this marketing, this branding, this cooking, this preparing the food, taking the plant to your plate, the farm fork to the kitchen fork, understanding the movement of food now, you know. So
the confidence to have a green thumb.
Confidence to have a green thumb. I mean, I
feel shame, I feel real shame and scared.
Yeah, because I mean, the whole thing about green thumb is simply that you're lacking the confidence. You know, and if you're not green thumb and you kill everything, but be confident and love up your plant, your tomatoes will grow. Right? So
I'm gonna try again, Alpha. I'll try again.
All I'm successful in doing is growing lemongrass, okay? I'm very good at that.
Nice.
Well, that is your thing then. Grow lemongrass. Create a big market for it. I mean, then they say that the cure for COVID. I don't know.
Well, you know, I've been drinking that a lot.
Anyway, Olia, let us not overstay our welcome on the people on them Facebook. I see Lisa Marie just asked a question.
Soil is the new oil.
Soil is the new oil and grass
Soil
is the new gas. Yes, Lisa.
Oil and gas is the new.
Yes, Lisa.
Yeah.
Listen,
Spread it with credit.
Olia preach. This was better than church. But not better than the beach.
Correct. Let us out, Keith.
Thank you so much to
Thank you,
Agyei,
guys.
Alpha, Brigette, Risanne, and Niece. Thank you, Marcus, behind the scenes making this happen. Thank you, Marielle, the mastermind, and Fallon, Carver, and the rest of the Green Screen Film Festival team, and Sustain TNT. Don't forget what?
I said, don't forget about the sponsors, whoever made this possible.
Yeah, how could I forget them? Last but not least. Thanks to Green Screen 2020 sponsors, NGC, National Gas Company of Trinidad and Tobago, Swimcall, our media partners, Luke TT and Trend Media. Thank you so much to everyone who's made this evening possible. And don't forget, there's another discussion happening next week as part of these New Normal Talks. It's on Thursday, the 22nd, and we're going to be looking at energy and transportation, two big fire topics. And that one will also be paced. That one will also be paced. And I just want to close by saying thank you so much to the people who tuned in, who were viewing, who were commenting and giving suggestions and thoughts. Yeah, you know, this is such a time of uncertainty and questioning, anxiety for all of us. But it is also a time of beauty, a time of excitement, a time of innovation. And I want to give thanks for all of the people who are creating despite the uncertainty that they feel, who are finding ways, making solutions. To all our cultural producers, to all the young filmmakers and not so young filmmakers who took the chance and entered a film in this year's Very Short Shorts mobile film competition. We're really looking forward to seeing your work shown during the film festival. Please, whatever all you do, go on the website www.greenscreen.film and sign up so that during the weekend of the 29th of October to November the 2nd, you can see all the films for free on our website and some other platforms. So make sure and go to the website and sign up. The thing right there. As soon as they reach on the page, it kind of thing saying
don't drop the ball
sign
on
up. Do not drop the ball. Don't stick. Do it now. Okay, just open a new window and do it now. Right? I'm rambling. Anybody else have anything else to say? Marielle, am I forgetting anything? I think I said everything that I was supposed to say. No, Marielle, say, yay, thank you. I won't get buff when I come off, right?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
It
so
was
much.
great.
Thank you so much. Take
Great.
care.
And make sure and follow all of these people, all of these amazing people doing amazing work. Please have a safe night. Please don't forget to social distance and wear your mask. Be safe out there. Be safe inside. Plant, grow your food. You have the power. Have a great night.
It's not too
Bye.
late.
Evening.
Bye.
Bless.